I finish the day's homework at the library, knowing I won't be able to concentrate once I step foot back in the house. When I first moved in with Asa, I was one night away from being evicted from the couch I was crashing on, not to mention all the other financial issues I dealt with. We had only been dating 2 months, but I had nowhere else to go. That was over 2 years ago. I knew, based on the cars he drove and the size of his house, that he had money. What I wasn't sure of was whether or not it was old money or if he was involved in something he shouldn't have been involved in. I was hoping it would be the former, but me and hope have never had good results. He hid that he sold drugs pretty well for the first couple of months, excusing his spending habits on the illusion that he had a big inheritance. I believed him for a while. I had no choice but to believe him. When people I didn't know began showing up at odd hours of the night and Asa only spoke to them behind closed doors, it became more and more obvious. He tried to explain his reasoning and swore he only sold harmless drugs to people who were going to find it somewhere else anyway. I didn't want any part of it, so when he refused to stop, I left. The only problem was I had nowhere to go. I crashed on a few friends' couches, but none of them had room or money to keep supporting me. I would have resorted to a homeless shelter before going back to Asa, but it wasn't my life I was worried about. It was my little brother's. Stephen has never had it easy. He was born with a lot of issues, both mentally and physically. He was receiving state funding for his care and had finally been put in a good home I could trust with him. But when that was cut off, I couldn't risk him being sent back home to my mother. I didn't want him back in that life, and I'd do anything to make sure he wasn't a part of it ever again. I was gone all of 2 weeks when my brother's group home funding from the state was canceled. I wasn't in a position to take Stephen in, and if I had taken him out of the group home that was so hard to get him into, he would lose access to the care he needs. I had no one else to turn to other than Asa, because he was the only one willing to help us. Walking back through his door and asking for his help was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It was as if running back into his arms was the equivalent of relinquishing my self-respect. He let me move back in, but not without consequences. Now that he knew exactly how much I had to depend on him to pay for Stephen's care, he stopped hiding his lifestyle. More and more people came over, and transactions were out in the open rather than behind closed doors. Now, there are constantly so many people in and out of the house that it's difficult to differentiate between the people who live here, the people who crash here, and complete strangers. Every night is a party, and every party is my nightmare. Every week that passes, the atmosphere becomes more and more dangerous, and I want out more than ever. I've been working part-time on campus in the library, but they don't have a student worker position for me this semester. I'm on a waiting list, and I've been applying for other jobs, trying desperately to add to my escape cash. It wouldn't be so hard if it were just myself I had to care for, but with Stephen in the picture, it'll take money that I don't have. Money that I won't have for a while. In the meantime, I have to keep up appearances by acting like I still owe my life to Asa, when in reality, I feel like he's ruining it. Don't get me wrong, I do love him. I love who I know he could be someday, but I'm also not naive. As many promises as he's made me that he's scaling down the business in preparation to get out, I know he won't. I've tried to talk some sense into him, but when you've got the power in your hands and the money in your pocket, it's hard to walk away. He'll never walk away. He'll either do this until he's in prison or until he's dead. And I don't want to be around for either. I don't even try to identify the vehicles in the driveway anymore. Every day there's a new one. I park Asa's car and grab my things, then head inside for another night of hell.